All right, folks, welcome into another brand new edition of the 901 Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence Docker. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93. You can find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. You can search us on Facebook. Just search 901 Soccer. We'll pop right up. Just search Bluff City Media and we'll pop right up. And of course, I have just realized that I failed to mention that you can find Bluff City Media on Twitter at Bluff City_media. But we're taken care of. Nobody panic. We'll be fine. We got it taken care of. So that takes care of Twitter and Facebook. If you're watching this, of course, you're watching it on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. So I would encourage everybody to subscribe to that channel, to like this particular video, and comment on this particular video, because that, of course, helps drive traffic, which helps me out tremendously. What we have for you today, this is the 2025 Memphis Women's Soccer Season Preview. They've completed both of their preseason games. They have opened camp. They've had media day. They've got the schedule out. The stadium is under reconstruction, deconstruction, renovation, however you want to call it. And, it's an exciting time. Unfortunately, we no longer have a professional soccer team here in Memphis. Rest in peace, Memphis 901 FC. So if you are somebody that was a 901 FC fan and still carries a torch for the beautiful game and want a way to go support high-level live soccer in this city, look no further than the women's soccer program at the University of Memphis and the men's soccer program at the University of Memphis. But we're going to talk about them next week. Tonight, we're talking about the women's team. They are back. I don't know that I can quite say better than ever, but they're back. And I don't say that just because better than ever. That 2023 team was better. They were back and better than ever. And that team was awesome. But unfortunately, last year, they missed the NCAA tournament, which was incredibly asinine, but that's the reality. That is one of the side effects of having to play in the American Athletic Conference. It's a struggle that Ryan Silverfield and the football team know, and it's a struggle that Penny Hardaway and the basketball team know. That essentially you have the burden of proof is so much higher for athletic teams at the University of Memphis because of the conference that they play in, which is crazy, but that's where we are. And it's unfortunate because it caused the Memphis women's soccer team to miss the NCAA tournament last year, despite posting a record of 13-2-4 and being ranked in the top 25 all season. So you're telling me that one of the top 25 teams in the country was not one of the best 64 teams in the country. That doesn't make any sense to me, but, I guess it doesn't have to. I wish it did. Their only regular season loss was on the road at Tennessee, who got into the NCAA tournament with a record of 9-8-5. They were a game over 500 and went to the tournament. Their best win was probably against Memphis. And Memphis can't have a win of that quality because, unfortunately, they can't play themselves. But they are back, and Coach Monaghan said it's not a huge thing hanging over the program this year, but there's a little for the returning players. There's a little bit of extra motivation there, a little bit of extra juice that otherwise might not be there. And that's not to suggest that the players were resting on their laurels or anything like that. If there's anything we have learned over watching this team over the last several years, it's that there's no nobody's content to be just where they're at. They always want, the players and the coaches at this program always want more. And I can't think of a better way to run the program, to be perfectly honest, because they have achieved quite a lot, but there is nothing wrong with wanting to achieve more. And in fact, there are many teams, programs, organizations throughout this country, U.S. soccer, that for whatever reason, haven't accomplished a lot, but seem to be quite content where they're at. Doesn't make sense to me, and I'm very glad to see and to say that the women's soccer program at the University of Memphis does not think that way. They operate along, we can always do better. That's a fantastic way to operate. So, last year's getting screwed, and we mentioned getting screwed out of an NCAA tournament appearance last year, shouldn't have been a surprise because the year before, I mentioned that 2023 team that was so awesome. They went, I think, 18-1 during the regular season. 18-1. Their one loss was on the road at a top 10 Alabama team who the prior season, so the 2022 season, had gone to the College Cup semifinals, essentially the Final Four. And the NCAA tournament selection committee decided that Memphis was a 6th seed with an 18-1 record and the one loss on the road at a top 10 opponent who had gone to the Final Four the year before. Asinine. And they proved them wrong. They beat LSU. Then they went to Fayetteville and beat a top 10, top 15 Notre Dame team. Came up a little bit short in the Sweet 16 against Pitt. But, when you just have to stack awesome team after awesome team after awesome team after awesome team, eventually one of those awesome teams is going to have, like, awesome Memphis team versus decent LSU team. Memphis wins. Awesome Memphis team against awesome Notre Dame team. Awesome Memphis team wins. Awesome Memphis team against really good Pitt team. Really good Pitt team wins. Tough road to hoe sometimes. But that's the reality of being the University of Memphis right now, and that's not unique to women's soccer. That's across the board. For whatever reason, the burden of proof is much, much higher, and anything that they do get, they absolutely 100% earn because they have to. But all of that aside, that's a dark, distant memory. We are looking at the present, and more presently, looking at the incredibly bright future that is the potential for the new stadium out at South Campus. Earlier this summer, at some point, I think in the middle of July, they began the process of renovating the stadium. And I say renovating because typically when you talk about renovating, you mean making changes to an existing structure. That's not exactly what's going on here, which is not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, but the old bleachers have been ripped down. They're gone. The ground is a big, giant dirt patch right now. Temporary bleachers have been put in place, and I think it's those same temporary bleachers that have always been sitting in front of the main stands, which is fine. And both Brooks Monaghan for the women's team and Richard Mulrooney for the men's team I was lucky. We here at Bluff City Media were lucky enough to have them here on the 901 Soccer Podcast, and they both emphasized bleacher seating is going to be limited. Bring a chair. Bring your chair from home. Bring a lawn chair. And that's something that we've seen in the past, but it's one thing to see it because you're always, you're never quite sure. They're really supposed to have chairs over here? Like they've got bleachers and they got stands. They're really supposed to bring your own chair from home. You have been encouraged by both of the soccer head coaches at the University of Memphis are encouraging you, bring your own chair to the game if you so desire. If you don't want to, if you want to sit in the bleachers, if there's room, or if you just want to stand, that's your prerogative. But bigger and better things are on the way. As Coach Richard Mulrooney said when the men's team opened up at fall camp, it's a sign that bigger and better things are on the way. And I think Brooks Monaghan had the best quote of media day when the women's team opened up their fall camp. He said, No, my plan was to get a chair and a cooler of beer and sit out in the center circle and watch them tear it down. But unfortunately, I was out of town on vacation. And I think he said that he had been texting with Ed Scott, the Memphis athletic director, that some people might see this as just a pile of rubble, but he sees it as his Picasso. And if you think about it, it's hard to disagree with him because we're very proud of the achievements on the field historically for the women's program, and we're very proud of the achievements in the last couple of years on the field of the men's program. But this is a project being spearheaded by the women's team. It's being named after a former Memphis women's player who played for Coach Monaghan, and it really is the success of the women's team historically that is allowing this to happen. And as I think it was Jeff Calkins in the Daily Memphian, when they announced this stadium, when they had the press conference, that said the women's soccer team at the University of Memphis has, for a very long time, earned and deserved a lot better than what they have. And there's no argument here. They've been very successful, and they have, it's really, you want to talk about doing more with less. And that's what Brooks Monaghan and Johnny Walker and Ted Bartels have done over at the University of Memphis for the women's program. They have done more with less. You'll see there's what appears to be like a little construction site trailer. That is essentially their locker room. And it gets difficult for them to fit everybody in there. So this new stadium, when it gets built, you can go back to the episode with Coach Monaghan. I don't remember exactly what he said the timeline was. Maybe next year if they're lucky, but more than likely the following year. So that would be 2027. But whenever it gets done, it's going to be phenomenal. And you can't say they don't deserve it, because they absolutely do. Because they have proven it on the field over and over and over again. They've won, I don't know how many conference championships. They went to back-to-back Sweet 16s. They're putting players into the pro ranks like crazy. And so for Coach Monaghan to say that pile, what at the time was the pile of rubble, it's all gone now. It's just a nice dirt patch. To say that it's a Picasso, 100%, because it signifies out with the old, in with the new. It's like this is quite frankly had been kind of a little bit of an eyesore for a very long time, and now, as Coach Mulrooney put it, bigger, better, and brighter things are on the way. And if you want, I am sure the folks at the University of Memphis will be more than happy to take any donations that you would be happy to give. There's a number of naming opportunities, I guess you could say, if you want to go to the Liza's Light website, which is scrolling right there on the bottom, lizaslight.org. There's a number of things that if you are willing and able to part with some money, you can get your name plastered up somewhere. Stadium name secured, obviously. The field name, the student lounge, and the training room are all paid for. The locker room could still use a sponsor. The grandstand, the press box. Personally, if somebody wants to, I would love to see somebody's name on the press box. Unfortunately, that's not my place to do it. But the film room, the boot room, and the Hall of Champions could all also use a sponsor if you were so inclined to make a nice little contribution over at lizaslight.org. So, biggest news was the stadium. One of the big surprises at Media Day to me, and I don't know why I didn't know this, but they lost a little bit last year. And so the team for this year is actually going to be incredibly young. Like incredibly young. I think it's the second youngest team in the history of the program. And this is Coach Monaghan. Coach Monaghan's been the only coach at the University of Memphis for the women's program, and he's been there, I think this is year 26 now. So the second youngest team in 26 years, that's a pretty young team. The good news is that not only, you do have a lot of freshmen, and you've only got one senior, but the two team captains, Coach Monaghan said he's never been so excited to name two players captain. And he said that's not a knock on previous captains. Some years they've had 2, 3, 4, 5. I remember that 2023 team had a number of captains, Maya Jones, chief among them. But he said he's very excited for these two players to be captains this year, and that's Ashley Henderson and that's Finley Lavin. And I don't think anybody has had, I've said it on this program before, but I don't think anybody anywhere in the soccer world within the United States had a better summer and spring and summer than Ashley Henderson. Ashley Henderson was selected to represent the U.S. women's national futsal team at the inaugural CONCACAF Women's Futsal World Cup qualifying tournament. The U.S. did not advance, unfortunately. We got grouped, which was kind of a surprise to me. But Ashley Henderson scored 2 goals in the opening game, one of which was an absolute banger, as they say. And then was selected, entered, showed up at, I don't know how to phrase it, at the TST, the soccer tournament, which I, funnily enough, did an episode earlier this summer decrying because I don't understand the obsession with the TST or the TBT or the Big Three or any of these nostalgic trips. But you know what? There's a Memphis soccer player that went viral because in, I believe, the semifinal game in her bracket, scored the game-winning goal in extra time to send her team through the final. And not only did Ashley Henderson score the game-winning goal to send her team through to the final, she scored it against probably the greatest U.S. women's goalkeeper in history, in Hope Solo. I mean, you can go through the U.S. women's soccer hit record books, and any goalkeeping statistic you can think of, Hope Solo probably has the record for it. Might be a little bit of an insane person, but was a phenomenal goalkeeper. And her getting benched, and I think if she doesn't get benched before the Brazil game in the 2007 Women's World Cup semifinal, that we probably win that one too. Instead, they went with Brianna Scurry, hero of 1999, and she shipped 4 goals to the Brazilians. Neither here nor there, nor germane to this particular conversation. But Ashley Henderson and Finley Lavin are your 2 captains. You have a very young team. I think 1 senior and a bunch of freshmen, like a bunch of freshmen. But here's the thing with the freshmen. They wouldn't be here playing for this program if they weren't supremely talented. Like, these are going to be good soccer players. You can feel comfortable knowing that not only are they good enough to be on the field, but they are going to be held to a high standard. It is not just you see this happen in other sports all the time, where a supremely talented player shows up and is not held to a high standard and is allowed to just kind of do whatever because they're supremely talented, and then it turns into a weird, bizarro situation. Not going to happen here. Between Coach Monaghan and his staff and the 2 captains and Finley Lavin and Ashley Henderson, Coach Monaghan said that if everybody on the team just follows and acts like Lavin and Henderson do, then he doesn't have anything to worry about. So if Coach Monaghan's not going to be worried about it, I'm not going to be worried about it, and you shouldn't be worried about it either. It's very exciting because not just looking to this year, but if you've got so many young players this year, you would think the portal NIL insanity has not yet trickled down to women's soccer the way that it has football and basketball. There's a little bit of that, sure. Not trying to say that that's not a thing, but it is not the gravitron of insanity that it is for football and basketball. So when you have this many young players, there's the hope and expectation that you're going to be able to keep them for 2, 3, 4 years. And as talented as they are to be recruited to this team, to this program, that's probably going to mean bright, sunny, shiny days ahead. And that might even be true for this year. Again, they wouldn't be here if Coach Monaghan didn't think they could play. And we haven't seen a game yet, so there's no reason to suspect that they can't. But I'll tell you what, they are going to be thrown into the fire this year. And this is something that fans really should be excited about, as this is an absolute bear of a non-conference schedule. Now, somebody asked me, and I didn't have a great answer for them, is this non-conference schedule just a bunch of teams with names that people recognize because they are big-time football programs? Or are these actually really good soccer teams? And I think it's probably going to be a mix of both. But if you're the University of Memphis and you're trying to drum up extra interest and extra support in your quote-unquote non-revenue sports, women's soccer and men's soccer being 2 of those, although recent returns at both Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium and FedEx Forum do cause you to wonder just how much revenue the football and basketball program are generating, but neither here nor there. I mean, if you're trying to get people out to support the women's soccer program, putting together this schedule is a hell of a way to do it. I mean, you've got, 4 SEC teams on there, and then a road trip to the Big 12, to a conference that just, again, rejected the University of Memphis despite risking nothing. And the U of M assumed and absorbed all the risk on that one, was going to have, essentially, it wasn't money, it wasn't a big steamer trunk full of cash like the theory was, but it was going to be a lot of money in various forms for the Big 12. They were going to pay the U of M nothing, and there was the kicker of, if our TV ratings stink and our attendance stink and we're damaging the reputation of your league, you can boot us out after 5 years. And they still said no, which is banana land, and that's been covered ad nauseum in all forms of Memphis media, including here at Bluff City Media. But Memphis women's soccer has 4 SEC teams at home, and then they go on the road to a team in the Big 12. And that might be just worth pointing out. You can go, I don't remember where the tweet is, but you can go find it. I think University of Memphis women's soccer team has won like 9 or 10 straight against Big 12 opposition dating back to like 2018, 2019. So, just add another thing to it, and just an extra little bit of to the extra little bit of a middle finger to the Big 12. See, you could have had a powerhouse women. Not that it moves the needle as far as TV markets or contract or all of the other things that matter when it comes to conference realignment. But if I was the University of Memphis, that's just an extra little arrow that I'd like to have in my quiver, just like a little reminder, like, hey. Just we're here. You come, as Dr. Scott said. I'll talk to anybody. Anybody can call me anytime. Something to that effect. But you get 4 SEC teams at home. You open up the season in a couple of days against Southern Miss, and I was there for the preseason game against Auburn last Friday. And I was very surprised, and pleasantly so, at the size of the crowd for that game. For a preseason game, I just by eyeballing it, and again, that's eyeballing it is not my strong suit, but I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 300 people there for that game. Like, it was a good crowd. There was a long concession line. I'm sure they made a nice little stack of cash in there at the concession stand. It was a good crowd, and I was impressed with it. And I've made this point, I don't know how many times. I will make it, I don't know how many more times, but this is for Tiger fans. This is for homeless 901 FC fans. This is for people that are now just becoming aware that the World Cup is going to be in the U.S. next year, and you're looking to get into soccer. This is for Memphians who don't know anything about soccer at all. Any and all are welcome to come support the women's team at the University of Memphis. You do not have to pay to get in. You do not have to pay to park. Everything is free. The concessions are reasonably priced. That's the thing. Everybody loves to bitch about, I'd go more often if I didn't have to pay $20 to park and $800 for a ticket and $15 for a beer. Not a problem here. Not a problem. Free, literally free, 0.00, not a dime, not a penny, not a dollar, nothing. Don't have to pay to park, don't have to pay to get in. You can literally just walk in the door. That's all you need to just show up. It's free, F-R-E-E, free. And with this schedule, Southern Miss, Ole Miss, Kennesaw State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Missouri, UT Martin, Iowa State on the road. Get out to South Campus and support the women's team. It's free. Now, that's the non-conference schedule. The conference schedule is what it is, right? Even if the University of Memphis were not the preeminent power in the conference, just like they were in CUSA for years, just like they were in the previous however many iterations of the American we've been through now, they're the team to beat. They have been for some time. There's no reason they shouldn't be this year. Obviously, these are not super enthralling matchups. I would still encourage everybody to get out there and support this team because they deserve it. And like I said, it's free. But I don't expect them to not be contending for the conference title. By far and away, they're the most seasoned program. Not so much this specific team because they are so young, but I mean, I would put their roster and their coaching staff up against anybody in the conference. Honestly, I'd put them up just about against anybody in the country. That's another thing that Coach Monaghan touched on at Media Day, is that in terms of NIL, Dr. Scott and university have been very supportive of them. There's nothing to worry about there. They are supported better than anybody in what we call the Group of Five. And he said there are a number of power conference schools that wish that they could get the financial backing that Memphis women's soccer is getting, which makes those matchups against the SEC schools and Iowa State that much more enticing. Also wanted to mention, I should have said this before I put it off, but the August 24th game against Vanderbilt and the August 28th game against Missouri, those are double headers. Where the men's team will play the first game at 5:00, and then the women's team will play the second game of the doubleheader at 7:30. So, 2 games for the price of none. Get out there and see them. I cannot say it enough. It is free to park, free to attend, and cheap to eat. And you get 2 of those days are doubleheader days. There was one doubleheader day last year. I think it was on Labor Day, as a matter of the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that was the men's team played Central Arkansas and the women's team played Iowa State. I think, don't hold me to that. But for the conference, it is Memphis's conference to lose. They have earned the benefit of the doubt over a quarter century of just consistently competing for and winning conference championships. Division, regular season, tournament, doesn't matter. It's theirs to lose. But benefit of the doubt also means the weight of expectation. And I don't think that's something that they shy away from. But Coach Monaghan also acknowledged that's not something that just happens, right? It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort from a lot of people to make it happen. Luckily, they've been doing this long enough that I have complete faith that they will take all the necessary steps to make that happen. But you still have to go out there and play the games, and you as the fans still need to go out there and support them, because it's going to be a fun year. I'm excited. Both the women's team and the men's team, I feel like we're going to have really good seasons this year. And I'm really excited about it, and I think you should be too. All right, that is going to wrap it up for us here tonight. This has been your 2025 Memphis women's soccer season preview. They begin the regular season on Thursday at home against Southern Miss. Be there or be square. And hopefully, the plan for this year is, now that we don't have 901 FC anymore, you may have seen, again, follow me on Twitter at LDoc93, 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. I've been writing a lot for Beyond the 90. No longer write for World Soccer Talk, so I'm over at Beyond the 90 now. And there's been a lot of Memphis soccer content over at Beyond the 90. So the plan for this year, since we no longer have 901 FC, we are going full steam ahead on women's and men's soccer at the University of Memphis. We're going freight train from hell, okay? Written preview for every single home game, written preview for any road games against power conference teams, written preview for all postseason games. Okay, so that's your written content. Also, a written recap of every home game that I am able to cover, every game that I am able to cover in person. There will be a written recap for that game as well, just like it has been for the last 2 years. For the show, 901 Soccer Podcast, Memphis men's soccer season preview will be recorded 1 week from tonight. They open the season on the road, but we'll talk about that in their show. This is not their show. This is the women's show. I will say this. This is another thing that I really like about both of the programs at the University of Memphis. There's no back and forth. There's no disdain. There's no animosity. There's none of that. The programs are very supportive of each other. We saw and continue to see at the national team level, the fan bases for the U.S. men's team and the U.S. women's team are very separate, very distinct, and have nothing but disdain for each other. which is unfortunate, but that is U.S. soccer's doing. That is the women's national team's doing. That is to a lesser extent the men's national team doing, and that is just the toxicity of social media. That is not the case here at the University of Memphis. One of the things I've always enjoyed, respected, and appreciated about the soccer programs at the University of Memphis is when able, if one team is playing, the players for the other team are in the little student section behind the goal supporting that team. Like, so when the women's team is playing, if the men's team is in town and not on the road somewhere, the men's players are behind the goal cheering on the women's team. And if the men's team is the one that's playing, the women's team's players are behind each goal. I think that's awesome. I don't know how common that is at other programs, and I don't know how common that is across other athletic programs within the University of Memphis. So I think, to me, as far as I can tell, that is very unique, and I think that's just another reason that everybody out there in listener land needs to get out to South Campus and support both the women's and men's teams at the University of Memphis, because not only is everything free, like I said, but the teams they're good, right? They're both very good now, and they deserve, demand, and appreciate your respect and support. So, all that being said, the plan is for the 901 Soccer Podcast, somehow, if you remember, during the days of 901 FC, that the show would do like a video recap after every game, after every home game that I was able to attend, which was over the last 2 years, it was most of them. So with the decision having been made to do a written recap of every game, I'm thinking probably once a week, do a show, cover both teams. Here's what's happened since we last talked. Here's what we got coming up. Maybe try to have Coach Monaghan, Coach Mulrooney back on, see if any of the players are interested in coming on. That stuff we'll figure out as the season goes along. But the plan for right now is to do at least one show a week covering both women's and men's teams at the University of Memphis. And so I hope y'all come along for the ride, because it's going to be fun. And the more that you watch and read, the more that I hope you're out there at South Campus. And the more that you're out there at South Campus, the more I hope you read and watch what we're doing here. That is going to do it for us tonight. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm Lawrence Docker. You can find me on Twitter at olddoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Bluff City Media on Twitter at BluffCity_media. It's over on Facebook. Just search 901 Soccer and search Bluff City Media. And, of course, right here on YouTube. This is the Bluff City Media YouTube channel, so please make sure to subscribe to it. Please like this video of the 901 Soccer Podcast, and please comment on the video of this 901 Soccer Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we hope to see you out there when the women's team takes on Southern Miss on Thursday.